First off, thank you for having us. My name is Sadiq Ali. I am actually now the Chief Operating Officer of AccurKardia. I'm also a co-founder of the company. It's good to be back here. I think really every conference that I've been to, you seem to be outdoing it, Scott. So thanks for having us, and we are happy to join you here. So we all know that ECGs are critical to cardiologists as an arsenal. They're at least as critical as a stethoscope is to a general practitioner or an ultrasound is to a gynecologist. And this has been the case for more than a century, really. But today, what we are finding is that as we begin to better understand comorbidities, we're starting to see the overlap between cardiovascular disease and other metabolic diseases, in particular, diabetes and chronic kidney disease. Globally, about 476 million people, which is about 6% of the world population, suffer from diabetes. Of these, a very large number suffer from type 2 diabetes. In the US alone, about 32.6 million people, or 1 in 10 of the US population, suffer from type 2 diabetes. Diabetes is one of the most common causes of CKD. Approximately 30 to 40% of patients with diabetes develop CKD. Nearly 1/2 of all patients with CKD, particularly stage 4 and stage 5 CKD, develop cardiovascular disease, and approximately 40 to 50% of all deaths in this population are associated to cardiovascular mortality due to things ranging from heart failure through to fatal arrhythmias. In the US alone, 12 million people are at risk of this. As most of the world ages and as chronic disease becomes a bigger and bigger problem, management becomes ever more critical. In this context, the value of an ECG, and particularly the change in an ECG for an individual, becomes paramount. We believe that ECGs today are at the cusp of becoming one of the most, if not the most critical biomarker in diagnostics and disease management. There are 3 reasons why we hold this belief. The first we discussed extensively in the previous slide, the interplay between metabolic diseases and cardiovascular disease. The second is because one of the most interesting aspects of an ECG is that the ECG is very unique to an individual, to an extent that some consider ECG as a potential biometric. In this context, an individual's ECG and the change in a person's ECG becomes very critical. I witnessed this firsthand myself when suffering through the Delta variant of COVID a couple of years ago. Very carefully tracked my ECG through that time and was able to see how it changed from the point where I was getting sick to the point where I was sick and to the point where I became healthy again. Now, this is anecdotal, but beyond that, we definitely see a lot of studies that have basically said the same thing. Another point to keep in mind is that in some ways, ECG offers if you compare it to the other broad diagnostics out there, in particular blood and DNA, ECG has some significant advantages, both from a remote monitoring perspective as well as a continuous monitoring perspective. Its non-invasiveness in nature, much more cost-effective than blood and DNA, and the ease of acquisition, particularly on a single-lead ECG, is far greater than what you'd find on anyone trying to do a blood draw or obviously gene sequencing of any sort. Today, 3 key elements are basically coming together to make ECG as a biomarker on a planetary scale viable. The first is the proliferation of ECG sensors in literally everything from watches through to steering wheels of automobiles, all the way through to toilet seats. I think about 3 months ago, the FDA approved a toilet seat with an ECG sensor embedded in it. The other part of it is artificial intelligence, both in the cloud and the edge. And then the third aspect of it is telehealth, which is critical, particularly to last-mile care and a situation in which intervention might be required. However, the current ECG interpretation approaches leave a lot to be desired. In studies performed by various publications, including the Journal of the American Medical Association Internal Medicine, the median accuracy of ECG interpretation by trained physicians is around 54%. This is not a one-off study. Study after study has shown this. From a speed perspective, it's even worse in some cases. It can take anywhere from 2 days to 2 weeks for a prescribing physician to get the results of a 24-hour Holter recording. Current solutions are just not adequate to handle accuracy, speed, and scale at a regional scale, leave alone at a planetary one. So we at AccurKardia are going to change that. In doing so, we'll unlock the value of ECG truly at a planetary scale. And why do we believe we can do this? Because in many ways, we've achieved this in the context of our very first product. There are certain things that are required, certain key features to make this possible. First off, in order to do this well, you need to have a device that's agnostic to the hardware. Our very first product, AccuRECG, received FDA clearance a couple of months ago. And that particular product works with Lead 2 of wet electrode devices, which includes everything from Holters to vent monitors to mobile cardiac telemetry devices, also known as MCTs. The second product in our pipeline, AccuRepeat, which isn't yet FDA cleared, works with dry leads, and in particular the Apple Watch, and is able to do so without any underlying changes to our analytics engine. Beyond that, you need clinical-grade accuracy, so we've achieved what we've spoken about from a device-agnostic perspective without suffering anything on the accuracy standpoint. We'll talk a little bit more about what those accuracy numbers are in the next slide. The software needs to be near real-time. In our case, the software works relatively real-time. Within the first 30 seconds, we are able to interpret the data, and for every subsequent millisecond, we do it in real-time. We have very broad diagnostic coverage already in the arrhythmia use case, and we are developing products beyond arrhythmia at this point. And from a workflow perspective, we've enabled it through an API, which enables other hardware and software providers to basically leverage our solution within the context of their solutions. So AccuRECG, this is the product that has been approved by the FDA for the detection of up to 13 arrhythmias, including critical atrial arrhythmias, such as atrial fibrillation and atrial flutter, first-degree AV blocks, as well as critical ventricular arrhythmias, in particular ventricular tachycardia. AccuRECG, I should say, takes what used to be a 2-day to 2-week process and reduces it to hours, if not minutes. Our software product does beat-by-beat analysis and reduces the time spent by a cardiac technician by up to about 70%. This allows our target customers, Holters, event monitors, MCT manufacturers to reduce their overhead costs significantly. The commercial opportunity presented by AccuRECG is very large, with TAMs well in excess of $4 billion in the US alone. Our immediate product pipeline is strong, and it covers products both in the traditional heart rhythm space and in the detection of diseases not traditionally diagnosed by ECG, including hyperkalemia, cardiac amyloidosis, and aortic valve stenosis, or AVS. Our hyperkalemia model was built based on Lead 1 ECG data and developed and validated at the Mayo Clinic. Validation was performed with retrospective data of 20,500 unique patient records and performed very well. We received sensitivities of 81%, specificities of 83%, and an AUC of about 89%. Our results for cardiac amyloidosis and AVS are similarly attractive. Our target partners for some of the new IP ranges from dialysis companies for the hyperkalemia use case through to pharma companies for both the hyperkalemia and the cardiac amyloidosis use case. And as far as AVS is concerned, TAVR manufacturers would be who we'd target. The TAMs for each of these are also very, very attractive and increasing year on year. We have raised approximately $4.3 million up to this point, which includes getting our first clearance, and are now looking to raise a $15 million Series A for commercialization and the further development of our product pipeline. We're a global team of AI scientists, researchers, engineers, clinicians, and healthcare professionals led by a core leadership team and supported by some of the best advisors in both the clinical and commercial side of healthcare. AccuCardia was formed in 2019, but the R&D efforts predate the formation of the company. We started our R&D efforts in early 2015. This year in particular has been a very active one for us. We started off in March 2020 of this year, joining the Mayo Clinic Platform Accelerate. We completed a seed round closing in June, received our FDA clearance actually the same week as our seed closing, and we're recently announced as quarterfinalists in the Digital Health Awards. So it's been a great year for us, and we're looking forward to what's to come next year. Thank you to everyone, and if anyone has any questions, wants to chat further, I'm available. If anyone wants to help us with our Series A, I'm available as well to talk outside. And last but not the least, thank you to Scott for arranging this event. It's great. Thank you.